COP stands for Conference of the Parties. The parties are most of the world's roughly 200 governments, each of which is a party to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And meetings of the Conference of the Parties are annual gatherings of the world leaders when they are focused on addressing climate change. This year will be the 27th annual meeting, and that is why it is referred to as COP27. So it's the 27th meeting of world leaders focused on climate change since the first meeting, COP1, back in Germany in 1995. Other notable COPs have included COP3 at Kyoto, Japan, which resulted in the international climate change agreement called the Kyoto Protocol, and of course COP21 in Paris, which resulted in the world's governments agreeing to the Paris Agreement, another landmark international climate change agreement among countries. The Conference of the Parties has actually still not adopted formal rules of procedure, even though there have been annual meetings for more than 25 years. So in practice, what this means is that all decisions adopted by the COP have to be made applying the practice of consensus since its first session. And this has generally been interpreted to mean that no parties can disagree, although some COP decisions have been adopted over the objection of parties. A meeting of the Conference of the Parties will typically open with a meeting of world leaders, where heads of state make announcements about how their countries plan to strengthen their contribution towards fighting climate change. And in the first 2 days, the COP and the subsidiary bodies will also hold their opening plenaries, adopt their agenda, and kick off the meeting. And the agenda is important, because that is the list of issues that will be talked about by the contact groups and small consultations during the first week. Then, after the world leaders speak and the subsidiary bodies do their technical work, we will see more of the political issues and ministers engaged in negotiations. Not much was accomplished in Glasgow. It was widely viewed as largely unsuccessful, especially when compared to other meetings in Paris, Copenhagen, Lima, Cancun, Kyoto, etc. This is because the Glasgow conference was tasked with showing that the Paris Agreement could mount an effective response to climate change. But most participants and outside commentators agree that it is referred to as the Glasgow Climate Pact has not helped put the temperature goals set by the Paris Agreement within reach, and things have probably only gotten worse. What we did see was rules concerning how climate change mitigation outcomes achieved in one jurisdiction can be traded and used elsewhere. The issue of whether the wealthiest and most economically developed countries with long histories of industrial activity resulting in increased greenhouse gas emissions should contribute more to tackling climate change remains unresolved. There's still a debate about honoring the commitment that wealthy nations made at COP16 to give developing countries $100 billion a year started in 2020. This issue about financing commitments and the extent to which more can be done under the auspices of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change to address something called loss and damage, or consequences of climate change that go beyond what people can adapt to, are likely to be hot topics for debate at the 27th meeting of the Conference of the Parties.